You know how all of us grow up thinking, gosh, if I could only join the circus, my life would be perfect. I would marry the person of my dreams, and we would live happily ever after. Well, I did join the circus as a marketing director, traveling ahead of the show, coordinating the advertising, publicity, and promotion campaign. The end goal being sold-out shows. I loved my job. I was good at my job. And I did marry the circus man of my dreams. But in order to live with him on the show, I had to quit my fabulously successful circus marketing director job to become the dancing bear. Lest you think it's every girl's dream to be the dancing bear in the circus, you would be absolutely wrong. I was forced to be the bear by circus management as punishment for leaving my highly successful circus marketing director job. These people were vicious. Some call them animals. But yes, with marriage, my career trajectory changed, all in order to live in marital bliss. But I felt like a caged animal. And that led to a tragically unhappy life. Somehow there was a baboon trainer involved in the mix of our marital strife that culminated in divorce. But in my defense, I did try and mix in with the other performers. I even picked up extra work dressing the poodles in the dog act. It was stressful. Dancing bear gig easy, I can dance. The toughest part of the poodle act was the timing. It was a center ring act. I was outside of the ring. After each trick, the dogs would come to me. I would change their little costumes, and upon music cue, send them back to the ring. But you know who the prima donna dog was? The Cher Wackadoodle. I mean, Labradoodle. This dog had a wig, a ball gown, and refused to go back in the ring unless her makeup was perfect. Let's go back to the divorce. It was no one's fault. Like in most divorces, there's stuff on both sides, either by omission or commission. But here's the point. Even though I knew our relationship had problems, I was leveled when I heard those 4 words, I want a divorce. In fact, I had to rush to the restroom in the Chicago restaurant where we were having the talk because I thought I was going to faint. It was actually horrible. He was with another circus at the time, performing in Illinois. He had a few days off, so I flew from Los Angeles, where I was living, to be with him. Much to my surprise, I was going in without a net, entering our relationship grand finale. When I regained consciousness, became upright, and went back to the table, I didn't blame, cry, or yell. I went inward. I instinctively felt that healing my emotional wounds, self-reflecting, and grieving the loss of the imperfect marriage was where my focus needed to be. Upon my return to California, I started to grieve. My grieving took place after work every night when I walked with my brother's dog, Carmen, who became my emotional support animal. I walked as I processed a clown car of emotions. And then magically, at the end of 1 year, I emerged as a happy, healthy person again. When the legal divorce was filed, it was amicable. I didn't understand how important grieving was to end a marriage when I was going through my divorce. It just happened naturally. We were in 2 different parts of the country. He was still traveling with the circus. Because he asked for the divorce, he was in charge of filing. But because he was on the road, he couldn't meet the court deadlines and the case was dismissed. 1 year later, he came out to Los Angeles to see me, and that's when we filed. And you know, it was the right time to do it because we had both spent a year grieving. That was exactly 31 years ago, but the memory is still fresh. There are those pivotal moments in all of our lives that become important life learning lessons. This was one of them. Because years later, when I became a divorce mediator, I was able to use my experience grieving before filing to help my clients understand their divorce experience better. What people don't realize is that there are two divorces. There's the emotional divorce, and then there's the legal divorce. The emotional divorce is the grieving process. The legal divorce is the filing process. I remember in the early days of my mediation practice, I had two couples who were incredibly kind and respectful to one another. As we were signing the judgment packages, I had to ask both couples, how was it that you got through all the settlement decisions without arguing? And both couples said the same thing. Oh, Judy, it wasn't always like this. In the beginning, we were your typical warring couple. And then we decided we didn't want to behave that way. So we engaged a therapist to help us unravel the issues of the marriage for the sole purpose of forgiving each other and reconnecting as friends. That's when I learned the 3 steps to an amicable divorce. Number 1, set the intention to be amicable. Intention is the foundation from which the tone and the direction of the divorce are established. Amicable doesn't happen on its own. It can't. People are grieving. Number 2, understand that grieving is necessary to end a marriage. Grieving heals the hurt, grieving calms the heart, and grieving clears the mind so that when legal decisions are to be made, nobody argues over stuff that just doesn't mean anything. There's an Illinois judge, Terry A. Crone, who nails grieving brilliantly. Quote, couples come to court disputing what? Almost always they say it's over who gets the velvet Elvis painting. I swear every case has a velvet Elvis painting. But it's never over the painting. It's over the hurt, end quote. And number 3, hire a therapist who understands the 7 stages of divorce grief, which are shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, and forgiveness. People don't necessarily go through every stage, but most people go through some stages. I was in shock when I was asked for a divorce, even though I knew the relationship had problems. I know that walking every night after work with my brother's dog Carmen moved me forward emotionally so that when I reached acceptance, I was ready to file. But when I reached forgiveness, I was in control of my happiness again. There's a man I want you to know, Bill Eddy, E-D-D-Y. He's the author of over 25 books on high conflict divorce. Eddy addresses grieving in his book, Splitting. Eddy's premise is that healing has to happen first before face-to-face problem solving can effectively take place. In navigating the complexities of divorce, it's crucial to remember that family, in its various forms, is at the heart of the matter. So my big learning lesson was grieve before filing for an amicable divorce. Sound legal decisions cannot be made with a grieving heart. And the first step is so easy. Communicate. Communicate to your spouse your need to grieve, especially if you're the one who's been asked for the divorce. If you're the initiator, allow your spouse the time you had, sometimes up to a year, to process their emotions. If both spouses grieve before filing, no one will argue over who gets the velvet Elvis. Thank you.